Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. I hope y'all are having a blessed day. The sun is shining here on Cedar Creek, and we are so thankful for that. We haven't seen that in, for quite a few days. It is shining, and it feels so good out there. I've been outside today, and it feels so good out there. A little cold this morning when we got up. It was in the 30s, about 34 when I got up this morning, and it was chilly, and I had I had to warm up with a cup of coffee, several cups of coffee, honestly, and have been a little bit chilled throughout the day, but the temperatures did rise, and it's going to continue for us. And the weather people are saying that, for the next 10 days or so that we're going to warm up and experience some nice weather. And then, there's a question mark after that. So I don't know if they think we're going to get another cold snap or what the deal is, but we'll just have to wait and see. I'm praying that all of y'all that were in all of that terrible weather this weekend with the tornadoes and the rain and the flooding and all the stuff. And of course, we see pictures come out of different areas now, and it's just amazing to see all of the things that weather can really do with the vehicles, up to their windows in mud. And I watched a video which caused me a lot of anxiety. So I can't imagine those folks that was out there on those highways. I'm not really sure what state it was, but here they are on the highway systems, and they're on, the divided highway, and there's water all around, and they're down to kind of bottlenecked into one lane, and there's just water inundating them and really nowhere for them to go. And I cannot imagine the fear and the anxiety that must have caused for those folks. And so we're praying that people can get back on their feet and get things moving again in their areas. We know that some had such devastation, and we're so sorry, and we're thinking about you in that way. Now, I have been outside today, was doing some chores in here and happened to look out. And for those of you that don't know, my husband, Howie, he passed away a little over 4 years ago in 2020, in December of 2020, from COVID. And he always wanted to be here on the farm. He lived here most of his life here, and we bought the farm from his parents, and he wanted to be buried here. Not thinking, that it was going to be, soon, that it would be when we were older people, but it didn't happen that way. And so we did, the cemetery is out here, and I looked out today and something caught my eye, and I looked down there and I thought, surely those cows are not in the cemetery. Now, Howie, of course, is the only one that has been laid to rest there. And we have steel pipe fencing all the way around it with gates on either side so that we can gain access to it. But, and have never, ever had one trouble with those cows being in there, or at least I haven't. And looked out, and the cows had gotten into the cemetery. Now, we all know that if you've been around cows for long, you know that they can cause a lot of, wreak a lot of havoc, and they can cause harm. And so I got my shoes on and went down there, and the crazy things, I got them out of there. The bull wasn't in there, just the cows and calves. And so I got them out, and between the storms that we had and the high winds and stuff, and the cows being there too, there was just a mess. There was things strung everywhere. The flowers and some of the stuff was from the storm. There was a few things that had telltale cattle signs on it. And so I knew the cows had done that. So I spent the afternoon cleaning up the cemetery and putting some of the flowers back. And it's almost time to change out flowers anyways because, you know, they fade and they get all that. So anyway, I spent my time out there and it was nice and it wasn't hot. Of course, it wasn't chilly. It felt nice and it was quiet and I spent my time out there and kind of, you know, pondered some things in my heart and thought about some things. And then it was time to come home. And so I've come back in the house and I've had some more things that I needed to do and some paperwork and stuff that I needed. And I tell you guys, my neck and up through here is hurting again, and that's why you might see something blue. I've got a big heating pad here, and when I've finished talking with y'all, I'm going to put that heating pad on. It seems to really do the trick, and so I don't know if I'm just tensing up in my muscles. So because I'm all kinked up in my neck, I thought we'd just have a little conversation today. I have a lot of projects to do in the kitchen, things that are getting started, and we'll be talking and be visiting over those things this week. I got chicken broth and I got honey projects and I got all kinds of stuff to share with you guys. But today I'm just going to take it a little bit easy and see if I cannot get this worked out of my, it's not really, I keep telling you that it's my neck. It's not really in my neck. It's up really past those bones that feel like your head's hinged onto your neck. It's right in there and then up behind my right ear is where I'm having the issue at. And so anyway, I thought that we would just have a little bit of a talk. And I have been catching some of the news that's going on today. And now, guys, I don't profess to be any kind of financial genius. Obviously, I'm not. Or I would be in a way better shape than I am now, financially anyways. And I'm not. I don't give any kind of financial advice. You wouldn't want to take it if I did. But I was thinking and listening to all of the stuff with the tariffs and all of the stuff with the different countries going back and forth. And, you know, if they don't do one thing, they're going to raise the tariffs. And if they don't do something else, they're going to do another thing. And I thought about how that affects us. And, you know, we know that those products that are going to be coming into the U.S., it's going to affect us some because the prices are going to obviously go up. The things that are going out of the country for anybody that produces products or raises animals or whatever the case may be that's exported out of the country, we know that those we're going to have problems with those too because your profit's going to go down some when you have to pay more for stuff to be imported into the other countries. So beyond those, we might say, well, that doesn't really affect us. And so we kind of take that head in the sand kind of way of looking at things. And we really don't need to let ourselves do that. We need to pay attention to what's going on around us. And, you know, people say, well, if you say too much, then you're trying to spread fear and you're trying to cause people to panic. And I'm not. I don't want anybody to panic. You know, the things that went on during 2020, when people were just going and grabbing things and it wasn't really even making sense. A lot of the things that they were taking off the shelves and, you know, things became hard to find. And I've told you before that really the only thing that I can remember that we had a hard time finding was cornmeal. And that was just something that I just let fall through the cracks on my supplies. And for months, I was not able to find any cornmeal. But, of course, you can survive. You can make it without cornmeal. But that's what I kind of wanted to talk about today is beyond the financial things, because I'm not qualified to give any kind of financial advice. But I can give you advice as far as looking well to the ways of your household. And I wanted to kind of encourage your hearts and to lift your spirits just a little bit. And I know that there are some, I've got people on my channel that are new and I mean, they don't know some of the basic things like making gravy or, you know, stretching meals out by making a pot of beans or making some noodles or doing different things. They don't know that. And I'm not here to make fun and point my finger and say, well, aren't they dumb? Absolutely not. Everyone has to start somewhere. And if we catch ourselves putting people down when they don't know something but they're seeking knowledge, then shame on us. And so I don't want to do that. I want my channel to be a place where people can come and they can be encouraged to find meals or that will stretch their food budget, that will stretch the meal that they're actually preparing, that would give them ideas of something else that they could do, and that we could work together as a community here on Cedar Creek, and you all giving me ideas and maybe even being able to put them out there and you know, you giving them to me and me passing them on along. I think that that's a wonderful thing, and that we have opportunity to share our knowledge and our wisdom with each other so that we can work and make it through this thing. One of the first things that we need to do is to take stock of our pantries and our supplies. Now, when I say that, I don't just mean your food stores. You know, it's important to have your food stores and to have the things that you know that your family will eat. Now, if you don't like asparagus or you don't like artichokes, I've never had an artichoke in my life, but if you don't like those, it doesn't make any sense for you to have those things on your shelf, because that's not something that you're going to reach for to feed your family. You need to make sure that you're stocking things, whether it's store-bought in a can or it's homemade or it's a mix that you homemade and where you can pull it together when you need it for a meal. Though you need to stock for your family. There's no shame, absolutely at all, if you stock in your pantry things that are store-bought convenience foods. I'm not going to shame anybody to where they're not supplied and they're not stocked up. Now, I will tell you that it is a lot cheaper, though, if you can learn to make things from scratch. A little more expensive at the beginning when you have to buy, if your pantry is totally bare right now and you're thinking, what's the best thing for me to do? Then I would stock some canned items, grocery store prepared items to begin using in the immediate future. And I would take a very serious look at the things that I want to keep on hand for my family. I would want to have baking mixes, or the very least the ingredients to make those: flour, salt, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, all of those different things. And you know, you don't have to just run right out and buy a 25-pound sack of something right off the bat. Start in. Now, we know that if these trade tariffs continue on like they are, these trade wars or whatever you want to call them, if those continue, well, we are going to see prices go up. And so things, you know, they're going to be a little bit more expensive today, more expensive tomorrow than what they were yesterday or the month before or the year before or even before that. People have been preparing and stocking for a long time. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you claim to be a Christian and you're stocking and you're preparing, and aren't you basically saying that you don't trust the Lord? Absolutely not. I grew up, and probably a lot of you did too, with grandmas and aunts and mamas that had prepared pantries. They had stock pantries. They probably didn't call it a prepared pantry. That was just their way of life. You know, the prepper thing, the title prepper or whatever you want to call people, that's a newer thing than it was, you know, when I was a child. That was just the way of life. If you had watermelon, you had it in the summertime. If you had tomatoes, they were because you grew tomatoes or somebody else in your family grew tomatoes and they gave them to you, or whatever the case may be. And now, you know, you can go to the grocery store anytime and find little watermelons or tomatoes or whatever coming from all over the world. Now, the taste may be off on some of that stuff. It definitely is off. But our families were in a place where they knew ahead of time, and we should get back to it ourselves. They knew ahead of time that I'm in the midst of summer. I've got all this squash. I've got these tomatoes. I got this corn, these green beans, all these things, pumpkins. And I need to figure out a way to put these things up so that in the winter, when it's cold, when we can't grow anything, when, there wasn't some people had greenhouses back then, but not a whole lot of people. And I don't know anybody from my childhood that had a greenhouse. You just prepared ahead of time, and then in the wintertime, they took stuff off the shelf and they made it. I can remember looking in my mom's pantry and other people's pantries, and Mama would have, she had gallon jugs of molasses, and when I was a kid, I didn't like molasses, but boy, now going back, I wished that I did, and I wished I could still get access to it like what she had. There was canned apples that she would warm up, and we would have as part of our hot breakfast in the mornings before we went to school. So many things that they did because they knew they needed to be prepared. That was everybody. That's just what they did. If you grew a garden, if you had family that grew gardens, I didn't see very many people turn produce away. They took it and they made something with it. Now, maybe squash, maybe zucchini, people might say, whoa, I've got plenty. But for the most part, people would take and they would make use of it. My step grandma, she was a sheet cake maker. I don't remember ever having a cake that she made that was in a 9x13. It was always a sheet cake. And she would use that. She would shred that zucchini up, and she would make put zucchini in her cakes, and she would make zucchini bread. And so it's just, going back to things that we at one time knew. One of the items that we've been hearing a whole lot about lately is eggs. Now, if you are fortunate enough to have chickens and ducks and turkeys and have poultry, then you know how blessed you are to have farm fresh eggs and have meat and have all of the things that a poultry provides. And in years past, here on Cedar Creek, I didn't have to worry. I had eggs running out my ears all the time and was able to take them to church and share them with our church members and family members. We had dogs and coyotes and I don't know what else come through here, and they totally wiped out our poultry. And so I had to start over with that. So I don't have anything that's producing eggs right now. So I had to buy my eggs. And I agree with everybody else that eggs are expensive compared to what we were used to paying for them. Farm fresh eggs, store-bought eggs. But I will tell you that when you break it down, and you can go on websites and one of them for sure is Walmart, and you can pull up their eggs and they'll tell you, how much per unit, per egg that you're paying. And I think the last time I checked a couple of days ago, I was looking at the big 60 count eggs, the box of eggs. And I think it equaled up to be, when you got everything priced, and it fluctuates. But when I was checking that particular day, the eggs were like 40 cents a piece. Now, I know a lot of people would say, that's crazy. I'm not paying 40 cents a piece for eggs. I'm not using my eggs to make omelets or quiche, or I'm not using it for whatever the recipe happens to be, if it calls for several eggs or even half a dozen eggs or whatever. But if you think about it, I think sometimes we need to change the way we're looking at things. And I know that eggs, that is something that we can see a considerable price increase. However, let's just use a cake, for example. If you were going to make a cake, whether you made a boxed cake from the grocery store, which is a little over, well, they're close to $2, but sometimes you can find them on sale. Frosting is a whole different category. But if you were just baking the cake itself, a little less than $2, and then you add 80 cents for 2 eggs. Sometimes they call for 3 eggs. Or you make a homemade cake mix, same principle. If you consider how much the cake makes, how many people you can really feed, depending on how big of a size of cake that you cut, um, it's really not that bad. 80 cents for ingredients for the eggs. So I think that we have to change the way we're thinking just a little bit. I would suggest to you that look around your community and find those people that have eggs for sale and support them. Sometimes you can find them for the same price that they are at the store, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more. But I will tell you that if they are free ranging and they're taking care of their chickens, those are very healthy eggs, rich eggs, duck eggs too. I don't really like duck eggs. I like scrambled eggs. I don't like the runny yolk. But I have had duck eggs scrambled, and I will eat them scrambled. But I would prefer my own self chicken eggs. But a duck egg makes excellent baking if you use them for that. And so anyway, besides the eggs, I think that we can go back to some of the things that our mamas and our grandmas used to do. First instance, having maybe at least a meal a week that there's not any meat in the meal. And I know all you protein lovers, my family, they're part of that. Having a meal where you don't have any protein in the meal. It doesn't matter, breakfast, lunch, supper. If you can find maybe an entire day that you don't have any protein for the meal. Maybe you have to have breakfast for supper. Sometimes that can be a cheap and cost-effective plan for your supper. A lot of people are tired of casseroles, but you can save money. You can stretch your food budget and your food by making and serving casseroles. And there are hundreds and thousands of casseroles out there that you swap out meats and rices and noodles. And maybe they don't have any noodles or rice, either one. And they have cheeses and they have vegetables. And I'm just a crazy amount of casseroles. Maybe we have to change our way of thinking on that and not be so quick to say, ooh, that doesn't sound good, or, oh, I don't like that, or I'm so tired of that. We sometimes, as moms and grandmas and aunts, we set the tone for the family. And so if we, will embrace making something and not talking about how awful it was that we had to do this or that, they take a cue from you. And so if you will enjoy the process of finding things to feed your family that isn't going to cost a whole lot, but it's going to be able to stretch your meal. One of the reasons casseroles are so popular is because you put it all together, put it in the oven, and go on and do something else. With a few little sides to go with the casserole, green beans or corn or a salad or a potato or even if you put some light bread or cornbread or biscuit or something like that, relishes, those things all coming together on the table is going to be able to increase the number of people that you're going to be able to feed. And so it's just a matter of changing our minds just a little bit. I've been watching this series on they call it Forgotten Foods, it showcases casseroles and different dishes. Now I was born in 1970, so from 70 forward, some of those things sound really familiar. You go 70 back, if it's not country cooking, some of that I've never experienced before. But it really is an interesting thing to think that we can put things together and we can do everything that we can to look well to the ways of our household, to stretch our budgets, to stretch the amount of food that we can feed our families. And I've said this before, remember the leftovers. Let's learn to love the leftovers. They get so much abuse and so much hate now. But we need to learn to love the leftovers and maybe reconstruct them, reinvent them into something else. Now, when you're making your list, make sure that you're putting plenty of seasonings and spice mixes on there, because that can totally turn a recipe. That can totally change the profile of it. You can have some of the same basic ingredients going in, and with just a matter of changing the seasonings and the spices, you create something totally different. You want people to not lose interest, especially the little kids and the elderly, that they will continue to eat and continue to be healthy. There's times that we just have to be open and willing to have things on our menu that in normal times and regular times, when things are not so up in the air, we wouldn't even consider. Things like spam and canned meats and things like that. People shy away from those things, and they think that they're not healthy, and I would say probably eating it every single day is not healthy. But there are times when you can take some of these products and make something delicious and nutritious and filling for your family. Some people say, well, how long do we have to do that? Well, the simple answer is I don't have any idea. I think that it's wise and prudent to always have a stocked pantry. It's always important to have the basics that everybody talks about: beans and rice, but flours and sugars and salt's very important. Your spices and your seasonings, your leavening agents, baking soda and yeast, and all of those different things. All of the different ways there are to put up meats and vegetables and fruits, and the vitamin contents of all that. And beyond food, you need, your first aid and all of the things that you need to think about. Hot pads, heating pads, anything that you really think that this might be something that your family needs to keep stocked and looking well to. Consider those that might not be here now. My children aren't here now. They're in Louisiana, Blade and Cheyenne and the babies. I miss them a lot, but they are doing pretty good. And they're not here now. But I still prepare, because you never know what the future holds. And you never know when when you'll be feeding more than what you bargained for, more than what you counted for. And I don't ever want to leave a space where I don't have anything for my children. And even if it's them just coming home to visit, and I can share some of what I have got put up with them, that would do this mama's heart a whole lot of good. So what can we do? Well, first thing, get you a notebook or some paper of some kind and start taking stock of all the things. It's not meant to overwhelm you. Don't get overwhelmed when you really start thinking about all of the things that you want to have for your family, your pantry, your first aid. Now, here on the farm, we even look at things that we're going to need out on the farm. Animal medications and, fencing supplies and things for the tractors and all that kind of stuff. And if you're not careful, it can overwhelm you. And that's not what this homework assignment, that's not what it's geared toward. It is simply to be an eye-opener for you to look at your list and say, you know what, we're in pretty good shape. We just have a few more things that we need to button up, and then it'll just be the normal stocking up as we go. You know how Patera over on Appalachia's Homestead, she says 5 to 10 cans a week. So if we are stocking well and we've got a good supply, then doing what she says would be something that we're continually building, but we're not being overwhelmed by that action. And like I said, it's not designed. What I'm asking you to do is not designed to cause you to be overwhelmed at all. It's just to be an eye-opener so that you can see where there might be weaknesses, where there might be holes, or there will be other things that you don't have to worry about that because you've got 500 cans. Just kidding. You've got plenty of that for your family. And so do that. Take stock of what you've got. So I'm suggesting that you take account for what you have. Find those holes and plug them. You know, we have to be like the little Dutch boy and stick our finger in the hole there. Do what we can to look well to the ways of our household. Don't be scared. Don't be misinformed. Know that we're doing all that we can to look towards our family, look towards their future, and know, yes, God has got it, but he gives us wisdom to prepare. So a little bit of a homework assignment for you. Make those binders, make those lists. I'm a list maker. Make you a list of all of the things and just start checking them off. You know, take stock. You know, if you've got on there that you want 5 cases of green beans, then you write down 5 cases of green beans and then write down how many you've already got. And know what you've got, rotate it out, and so that the oldest is going out first and the newest is back behind it. Okay. So I'm going to get off here, get my heating pad turned on, and see if I can't get this knot worked out of my back of my head here. And I'm going to leave you with this, guys. I love you. I really, really do. Keep looking well to the ways of your household. And until next time, we're gone.